Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We are here today to talk about what went down in Boise, Idaho last night, including the second longest jam that this band has ever played. Big deal. Big deal. But before we get into that, Neil, how are you today?
Doing great, man. Still surviving. Got an hour extra sleep because Goose had mercy on us and decided to go into the mountain time zone just for a minute. Yeah, man, just feeling great and excited to talk about jams because I feel like we haven't talked about jams in a while. We have a jam to talk about today.
We do. We have a sizable jam to talk about.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, of course. But we got a little bit to go before we get there.
Yes.
Kind of contextually, this show, obviously, we were not there, but looked like a really interesting venue. Peter mentioned that it used to be a prison. It's in the Idaho Botanical Garden. It's called the Outlaw Field, and it wasn't dark at any time during the show.
Yep. I mean, it is so far to the west in the mountain time zone. It is like basically in the Pacific time zone. And therefore you get ultra late sunsets.
Yes.
And I guess sunrises. Yeah. So 9:19 sunset last night. Show ended at what time?
9:58.
Like 9:58. So it was still twilight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What a weird thing, like an outdoor show that never gets dark. Getty just must have been like playing Candy Crush all night or something and just like autopiloting the lights because there's just nothing to do. And we had talked about, I had skeeted about yesterday, the possibility of the Aurora Borealis at that show. No chance of anybody
maybe
seeing
post
it
show.
Unless they stayed up.
Maybe, yeah. Depending where you went.
Very,
we also had some interesting outfits last night. Cowboy Cotter returns, I guess more Farmer Cotter, a little piece of wheat in his mouth for a lot of the show. The hat there again. And also Rick wearing a choker and a braid.
Yeah, that's strange business. I don't know what was going on with them.
But yeah,
that shirt was a special shirt. So the first thought I had when I saw that shirt was not that it is sleeveless, but like that shirt must have looked really funny when it had sleeves on it. Like it just looks like, I don't know, like Carlton from the Fresh Prince would wear such a shirt with sleeves on it. And Rick got that shirt and was like, I want to own that. And then was like, I'm going to cut the sleeves off of that and wear it with a choker. Everything about that is shocking to me. But here we are talking about Rick's clothes, which is something I vowed I would never do, but here I am.
You vowed you never do that? Why?
I'm not a big Rick's clothes guy.
It comes up enough. Well, anyway, let's dive into the show here. Yes, this is a sick house that I'm in. Thanks for that, Haps. Thanks for noticing. 3-pack to start the show: Pancakes, Cali Magic, Hot Love, and Lead Up. I guess we can talk about these four. Nothing crazy. I think I like that they're opening shows with jam vehicles like Pancakes, Drive, etc. But I would like to see, a return to like the winter 2022 of like, we're going to open the show with a jam vehicle and it's going to be 20 minutes long. Right. And this whole first set, the band sounds amazing. It feels like they had a ton of energy. Like the playing is fantastic throughout. It's just like, they're not going deep on any of the jams. And this Pancakes is just a great example of like, I don't know, 11, 12 minutes of just like, we're out here, we're ready to have a good time, and we sound great.
Yep. Yeah, 12 minutes of Pancakes. It doesn't really get anywhere. And I guess that's okay, but I, like you, would like to see them, jam a little bit in the first set. You can jam there and it works. Some of the, there are some really excellent jams that happen in the first quarter over the history of Goose, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll get there. I feel like it's so weird. So when they did February, it felt like they got their footing immediately. And then there's this run, and it feels like they have yet to find their footing, which is like really weird. Like nothing has truly gelled yet. We haven't had exceptional sets of improv. There have been flashes of brilliance.
Since night one, really. I think San Francisco night one, set 2 is an exceptional set of improv.
Yeah.
But I think
And
since
so,
then,
yeah, and I don't know. It's one of those things. They're on tour. I'm sure as things move on, they will kind of find it. I feel like I haven't seen the effort yet. Like they're not really trying to do that. They're really trying to just go out there and play complete shows, which I guess is okay. But for folks who are really into the jams, makes it kind of tough.
even
So
folks who are a little bit into the jams.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he
I'll
wants
talk
to
about this more later when we kind of look ahead to what's coming up this week. But I'm really curious to see how tomorrow night goes, especially because they're playing in Vegas. There's no hard curfew 3.5 hours after ticket time. And so for the first time since February, they have the breathing room to kind of, not cut a thing short if they don't want to. So just, throwing that out there. But yeah, I agree. It is weird for what we know that this band is capable of right now and the things we've seen, in San Francisco and like the Ben Thatch. It's weird to get, an entire set pretty much like this. I mean, this first set is very high energy. The song selection is awesome. But the jamming doesn't really do a whole lot. And so, yeah, it feels like they're reserving a lot for second sets right now. And I'd like to see them start to kind of spread things back into the first set again. You even think of last summer, out of the gate, the first show of the tour had a 30-minute Born in the first set. You had the Fiddler's Lee was first set. The Northlands Lee was first set. And there are other big jams in the first set that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's interesting to me to see that they're kind of going with the classic jam band model of, first set, we're going to get the energy going. We're going to maybe do a little bit, but then second set is where your big jam is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, I just wanted to highlight this point. I mean, there are a couple things to unpack here, right? They are playing less played markets. We've already said this. So they are trying to gain fans. So this festival set vibe that you're getting in these first sets is, I think that's very intentional.
Yeah.
And then of course, like these shows in daylight, like these outdoor shows are killing us right now in terms of vibes.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if it's the daylight because they played a 40-minute Rosewood in the daylight last night. But I think also this is a good point. Not like Rope, Jeff, agree. And they're on tour for a month with lots of one-off stops. That's the thing here also. We know that the band gets very comfortable when they have 2 or 3 night runs. We've even seen it on this show. San Francisco, feels like a different kind of thing. And I mean, that was the first shows of the tour, but it's 2 nights. There are no 3-night runs on this tour. We have 3 2-night runs left, but it's so many one-off stops. And so, yeah, that's a lot for, for the band and for the crew having to break down and set up every night. Last night was 3 in a row in 3 different cities that all had, pretty sizable drives. I think they have a day off today, which is great. And then the drive from Vegas to Phoenix isn't super long. So that's great. But yeah, there are a lot of factors at play that we kind of have to take into account when we're analyzing these shows, for sure.
Yeah.
And not just like face value. Here's the music that they played.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow night. They do have no curfew, yes, but they also have to get up and move and go to Phoenix the next day.
So that's only a 4-hour drive, though. So like, I'm not saying they're going to play until 1 o'clock in the morning. I just mean they can, like, I think ticket time's 7 tomorrow. But they don't have to be off the stage at 10:30 is my point. And usually that extra 30 minutes is enough for them to then kind of, play 2 90-minute sets or not truncate the second set closer and encore because they have to get off the stage.
Well, so I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but do you recall the previous 2 shows that they've played in Las Vegas? I
recall that each one of them had one standout jam. You had the Earthling or Alien in 22 and the Elizabeth in 23. I like the 23 show a lot. You got the Minor Key Mist, Fast All I Need. There's some stuff in that show.
There's some stuff.
So let's see.
I'd like to go back and pull the show review from that one.
Well,
there's no show review because you weren't at it. But in any case,
let's not talk about the 2022 one as a whole because that show is interesting. If you don't know what happened to that show, I don't think we weren't doing. That was actually
that was
22, but that was like 2 shows before we started doing day after shows. So we don't have a pod for that one. But I think I talked about it on the tour recap where it was a really late stream. I was on the East Coast, and I fell asleep at the end of the first set, and I woke up at the beginning of set 2 when the Elvis impersonator was on stage singing "Don't Be Cruel," and just had like a "what the hell is going on" moment.
Is this real?
Yeah, like what? So I don't know. Maybe will Elvis return tomorrow, because they have played Elvis tunes both times in Vegas. This is also what we should be talking about at the end of the pod. Let's talk about last night's show.
We still have last night to talk about.
Yes.
So
last thing
we
I
started
can
with
say about the first
the
4
pack.
Here, 4-pack. Hot Love, second drum solo for Cotter in as many shows. And it felt like he was excited about it. A little bit longer than normal drum solo. So hell yeah, Cotter.
You know what's interesting about the 4-pack? I'll say this one thing, which is out of all, so they're clearly playing the album as much as they can right now. And so California Magic was on relatively short rest for California Magic. I think that was like a 5-show gap, or 4, depending on who you ask. And then, Lead Up being played, like that was almost like a guarantee last night. But the interesting thing is, I also thought that Iguana Song was a guarantee last night. And I think it would have enhanced the show significantly if they played it, and they didn't play it. And I only say that because it was my 8-point selection for Fantasy Goose, and it tanked me. Because I thought for sure they were going to play it. It was on a 4-show gap, 5-show gap, if you're doing Canadian math.
Smart people had Madhavan for 8.
Yeah, that one did not feel like a guarantee to me. We should move on and get inch closer to that.
Yes,
do you want to talk about media right
closer.
now?
Because so here's the highlight of the first set to me, which is the media and the Western Sun. And then the Western Sun goes interlude to Jive 1, which is a pairing that we have seen before in Toronto. I think the Western Sun jam, I believe, is in the same key as like the beginning of interlude 2. And so I think, Rick at least feels like he can, execute that segue really well. Media coming back off the bench for the first time in a minute. I believe the last one was Miami. Was it Miami? Oh, no, Cincinnati. Sorry. The last one was in Cincinnati in November, and it's coming back. And, I think, Neil, you were the one that said before it was Devo. Now it's Talking Heads.
I mean, it always kind of had that, 80s kind of like very artsy kind of vibe to it, but it was more Devo than anything. And last night was just full Talking Heads. I mean, if you just look at all of the comments that were on social media, everybody was just like, Talking Heads, Talking Heads. Is this cross-eyed and painless? Like, and they were feeling that vibe. I like them both. I have always kind of liked media. I just think it's a neat song, and it's like out of the vein of what they normally do. And yeah, it's just cool. But it was always really too fast. So they've solved the too fast problem. Not too fast, too short.
Well, I like also that it's not, the one in the fall when they would do the long intro, it was just a Peter synth solo for like 5 minutes.
Right.
This is like actually like some jamming, like,
it's like a real song. Yeah, it's like before
exactly.
It was kind of like a, well, it's weird to use this word in this context, but it was like an interlude. It was just like a thing that you kind of throw into the show, you do the thing,
like,
and then you like move on.
Yeah,
and this actually feels like a song that has like a vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. And you have Rick and Cotter both singing lead on this now. Before it was just Cotter.
Right.
I really like the way that their voices sound together on this tune.
Yeah, that's another thing that I noticed in that. It really just, I don't know, adds some oomph to the song. And they do a really good job of like not having like a lead and a harmony there. It's just the two of them are just singing together, and it sounds really good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think this is sick, and I hope they play it more often. I think this was a 26-show gap on this. Math might be off by 1, but it was a really long gap.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be that long. Last one was SPAC? Cincy. Oh, right, of course.
SPAC.
Before that, SPAC.
They didn't play this at SPAC.
Didn't they play this at SPAC? No, it wasn't SPAC.
They debuted it in Boston.
In Boston.
Yeah, it was the
all
debut.
The same to me.
Really? You're confusing really terrible shows with really good shows?
I don't know. Well, let's not get into that. We're already shitting on other shows on the show. There's only many shows we can shit on.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So Western Sun
interlude. With Jam.
Jive 1. Yeah, with Jam. Getting out there. Nothing too crazy. But, again, Western Sun is jamming consistently, whether it's long or not. whether it's being used as the launch pad to get into the interlude and Jive 1 or not. I'm excited that there's some jams happening out of Western Sun consistently.
Western Sun should be a jam vehicle, if only because just that one version exists, and we all just hope they get close to it sometime again. And it's just,
Someday.
I don't know, it's a great song. It deserves to be played at length whenever they play it. And yeah, that's all I can really say about this. This one doesn't really go anywhere truly special, but it was nice to hear a jammed out version. And this is actually like a very big highlight of the show. These two songs back to back. It was a very interesting part of the show that I think is set apart from what they normally do. And that's the good stuff. And then I will always take Interlude 2 and Jive 1. I know they feel like kind of a formula and there's like nothing that's like really going to blow your mind. It's all super predictable, but that's a fun part of a show. And those are very rare songs. And yeah, man, that's the good stuff. That's the opposite vibe of the 3-pack of openers or 4-pack of openers, where it's just like, here we go, like Hot Love again. Like
Right.
we know it so well.
Well,
So,
I think
yeah,
I think
Interlude and Jive is good.
I think Interlude Jive 1 fit this set's energy and flow really well too. Again, like just as I mentioned before, they were just playing so well and playing really hot. And so Jive 1 is always great for that. It's consistent energy. Rick and Peter both get a good solo. And it's a great groove to it. And then, keeping with the vibe there, Yeti pumped up kicks Yeti to close out the set. I don't need them to keep doing pumped up kicks. Really, like I get that they like it, but like Yeti is awesome. Like right now, like I said last night, in some group chat or another, during the Yeti, I was like, man, remember what pre-2024 Yeti was? Like, this is so much better. Like I love that it's like, a jammer, you get the like 2 guitar funk happening. And I just feel like, when they put like pumped up kicks or Shama or what have you in the middle, it's kind of like, it doesn't feel as exciting as
Agreed.
when they were doing it like once every 2 years. Just for context, out of the last bunch of Yetis, I should have pulled this stat before. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versions of pumped up kicks inside Yeti since pumped up kicks was busted out at the Salt Shed in September. So yeah, just for context, like that's a lot for a cover to be played in that number of shows. Especially when it's all, a lot of the times, like if they play like a Shama, for example, like it's coming out of Creatures once, it's coming out of Yeti once, it's coming out of Dripfield in St. Augustine. So it's getting played a lot, but it's like in different places, or it's in the encore. This pumped up kicks every single time is exactly the same and is always coming in the middle of Yeti. So
at the expense of an extended Yeti jam, which I think we all can agree is sick, and you feel kind of like, well, would have been cooler with it, So I think that's like, that's the expense there.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, that brings us to the end of the first set. And yeah, I mean, I think we all could tell that a big jam was coming in set 2. You kind of feel, Neil, as you said during the show in Bend, like you could tell that the second set was going to have a big jam in it.
Yes.
When they opened with Madhavan, I really thought that was going to be the big jam. And here's my other big gripe about this show. The sandwich, like, it's a cool idea. It worked really well last night. But when you haven't played Madhavan for this many shows, and it's opening the second set, a little bit of a like disappointment to then not do the jam at all. Luckily, what they did ripcord into was 40 minutes long. But I was really, really hoping for a big Madhavan.
I mean, they're trolling us at this point.
Yeah,
we've talked about it a couple times. I think it's cemented last night where they have abandoned all of the old jam vehicles, and they're going up on stage and lighting them on fire like $100 bills and laughing while they do it. I'm serious. Like that's the only conclusion that you can come to at this point, and they're snickering at folks like us who are just like, how dare you? How do you ruin these songs?
Folks like us a lot, Neil.
Yeah, I think they do. I think think they probably get a good laugh about that. I'll tell you later. I got a funny message last night about
my thought,
the jam. But
my thought on this jam vehicle perspective is it's not all the old jam vehicles. I think it's things that the last 2 years have been really heavy jam vehicles, because Rosewood wasn't really jamming for a while, and it's been, really infrequently played for the past couple of years. Like you had the big version at the Cap last year, and I think before that, the last time it crossed 20 minutes was maybe like Bozeman in 2023. So they're bringing Rosewood back in a big way last night, and so I agree that they're definitely being like, oh, here's your Monavon, but it's not going to be the highlight of the show.
We're just going to pull the plug on it,
etc.
Yeah, it's like they're standing in front of the poster heads, and they all have these Pollocks, and they're just bending the corners on them, just like, haha, fuck you.
Right, it's still Pollock. Right, it's still cool. You still get a cool poster, but the bent corner.
The corners are now bent on it.
Yeah.
Somewhere Kev is trembling right now, and he has no idea why.
Yeah,
it's just like sweat, cold sweat.
Well, should we talk about this Rosewood?
Well, okay, yes. Let's talk about the Rosewood. So
longest Rosewood ever.
Why don't you kick us off? Yeah, go ahead.
Longest Rosewood ever. Beats Royal Oak by a minute and a half or so. Second longest jam in Goose history.
Point of contention there.
Okay, point of contention. It's not Echo of a Rose. It's Rosewood for 37 minutes.
Continue on.
Okay. Second longest jam in Goose history, just trailing the 45-minute Seattle Echo from 4:22:23.
Okay.
Was there a third stat? And the first 30-minute jam of 2025. So, lots of big headlines around this jam. Thank you. Really interesting that for 35 minutes or 39 minutes, there are two sections. And one of the sections is 23 minutes long. And I mean, last night I had like a, listening to this, I was like, fuck yeah, obviously it's like 39-minute jam. Like, I would much rather them play a 39-minute jam that like does one thing than not have. If you're listening to this podcast after the fact, please go to YouTube and look at what just happened on the video.
You know what was like really good is, and there's no way Haps could have known this, but his pants are riding so low that it looked as though he was not wearing any pants at all. For most of the time he was walking up to the mic, and I was terrified that we were about to broadcast Haps junk to all of the people who are watching the show right now.
Oh boy, long live Haps. Thank you for that name.
Yeah.
All right.
That cannot be unseen.
Where was
that? Cannot be unseen.
Spring
so you kind of see it as two distinct sections. Can you kind of talk about the two distinct sections? Because when I listened to last night, I could see how you could see it as two sections, but I see it as one. But go ahead and let me know what you think, and I'll kind of follow.
Before I talk about the two distinct, the thought I was in the middle of when Haps walked in, I'm like waiting for him to come back in some other outfit.
I hope he's putting clothes on.
Oh, okay, put clothes on.
Amazing.
Okay. I would much rather them play something for 39 minutes and just like for the sake of like, where the band is at right now, they should be doing shit like, I don't know if they talked about this in advance. I'm guessing they didn't, based on how Peter came back for the encore and was like, that set flew by. But I think they should be playing things for 39 minutes just to see what happens, because they're in that kind of developmental stage where something might click at minute 35. And that didn't necessarily happen last night. I think the jam is really sick. You get a similar Cotter and Trevor pocket to the San Francisco Green River. I think it was that very similar vibe. Rick, in the full power stance on the wah, during the funk section.
There was definitely some power posing. Yep.
Yes. And so I see my two sections are, there's like the first 15 or so minutes, which is just like Rosewood. This is the formula that we talked about, a couple of years ago when Rosewood was getting played more. But you have two sections. You have the Type 1 peak. It's fiery and great. And then you have whatever comes after. And they drop into the funk and they just spend 23 minutes or so building it. And it's really good. But yes, I will agree with Emily in the chat here.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Better than the Boise would.
Not even close. Not even close. So the people who like to say like, oh, these guys have a bias for jams that are longer over jams that are shorter, I think that right there tells you absolutely not. The Ben Thatch is so significantly better than the Boise Rosewood. So definitely want to say that part. So I see what you're saying now about Rosewood itself having two distinct sections, whereas always kind of type 1 Rosewood, peak, and then jam after the fact. And the interesting thing about Rosewood is, I'll say this, I don't view Rosewood as like a big jam vehicle, even though there are big jam versions of it that exist. It is too inconsistent as a jammer to call it a jam vehicle like Madhavan, for example. So I do want to say that part before we begin. And then the thing about this jam, which I think is going to frustrate a lot of people, is that it really, once the jam section begins, they hang on this idea and they are trying to develop the heck out of it. And one of the things that's confusing about this band is I feel like a bunch on this tour, they have ripcorded out of really interesting, fascinating jams
Yes.
and moved on to another idea really quickly. And then last night, they didn't move on from not a fascinating jam. It actually, the first, I want to say, 5 to 7 to maybe even 10 minutes of the jam feels like they're actually struggling to get something going. Rick kind of does the thing like where like he plays the root and then he does like a little bit of a solo and then like a little bit of a chord, then a little bit of a solo, a little bit of chords, a little bit of solo. And they're just trying to start something up and it's just, they're not finding it. They do eventually kind of find a groove and they build it and build it and build it. And they do the thing that they do where it kind of gets into this really gigantic sounding thing. So don't get me wrong. Like I'm not doing the thing where like, I've been begging them to play a jam and I'm sitting here and saying the jam is awful. I'm definitely not saying that. And I know how you could misconstrue that based off the things that I'm saying. But it's just weird to me that they allowed this to develop and they didn't allow the Wisteria from the other night to develop.
Yes, exactly.
I just don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. And maybe the intentionality has to be there. Maybe they have to talk about it in advance. Like, I really feel like going far. Maybe, like Rick likes to say and Peter likes to say, what we had for breakfast that day matters. And so it's all like a vibe. It's just, there are musical ideas that I wish were explored over the last few shows. And then there's this one, which is a musical idea they just absolutely hammered on until they got something out of it. And that's interesting. And so there's a couple takeaways here. One, I can be excited about the fact that they played a 39-minute jam because I am. And two, like, I just hope they do it more often. And I hope they have the courage to latch on to the ones that feel really good and let those ride out. Like, it doesn't have to be an intentional thing, throw the set list out. And then the third thing that I want to say about this jam is I absolutely agree with what Peter is saying. I've now listened to this jam 3 times, last night, twice today. It is really easy to lose track of time when you listen to this jam. It's the fastest 39-minute jam I have ever listened to in my life. And I don't know how else to describe it.
It really goes by. I agree.
Yeah, it really does. So like, if you want to do an A/B on what feels really long and drawn out and what doesn't, listen to this and then go listen to Royal Oak, Rosewood into Echo of a Rose into Rosewood.
No, stop spreading misinformation. It's Rosewood.
It's amazing.
I would say better than that one. And for a more recent comparison, go listen to this jam and then go listen to the Homedale Big Modern.
Perfect example.
Because
okay, so go listen to those back.
36 minutes. It's 3 minutes shorter and feels around 2 hours longer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think it's to do with the momentum that this Rosewood has from last night. It's again that groove that Cotter and Trevor are just so locked in on, and I think there's the opportunity for a lot more. But I don't know if it's the mix or anything, but like Peter's synth parts are super quiet in this jam. Kind of like the SPAC era last fall, which leaves a lot less stuff going on sonically. But I don't know. I really appreciate the fact that they played something for 39 minutes more than everything, more than anything. The way that this tour has been going, it's good that they played something for 39 minutes.
Yeah, and like maybe this is like they've turned a corner. Maybe they like feel like now they're going to kind of hit the improv hard and they're just gonna kind of ride it out. I mean, we'll see. So I don't know. I don't know if I did a really good job of explaining all of my thoughts on this jam. I think I think in the end it could be taken that I didn't like it. I do like it. There are other jams on this tour that I like more, and I want them to continue to jam for 39 minutes. So yeah, I'm just putting that out into the cosmos that like just because I have a few knocks on this jam doesn't mean I don't want them to continue doing it. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to really listen to this thing. This is going to go on my playlist. And there are very few jams from this tour so far that are on my playlist. There's not one for every show. So there you go. Those are my full Rosewood thoughts. And hey, things don't slow down here.
No, I mean,
There's
this
actually
Electric
more
Avenue,
yeah,
this Electric
really
Avenue
good.
is awesome. This
It's
is
very
the
good.
best one since Amsterdam, for sure. And I mean, I love the way that they go into it too. Like the Rosewood kind of dies away, and then you get about a minute of where Rick is playing what sounds like the ending of an Echo Jam, like when he's
Yes.
fading into the outro. And then, then Electric Avenue, and just a beautiful, beautiful space that they reach here. This is like, again, they're hitting that sunset space. I think they play to that vibe really well. And then the ending of Madhavan that they get into is really cool and unique. You know, I think Rick starts it as if like, all right, we're just going to play the ending of Madhavan, and then Cotter takes it in a completely different direction with the beat. And you get a few minutes there, and then the way that they kind of bring it back in is cool. Again, Cotter is really good at not abruptly switching time signatures or like speed or what have you to get into the ending of a jam. You know, I'm thinking of the Big Modern in San Francisco last week, Out of the Dust and Hoffman, how they just took their time. And like, I think Rick also is like putting a lot of trust in Cotter in scenarios like this to find his way back properly. You know, Rick will be like, all right, we're going to go back into Madhavan now, and I'm leaving it up to you to steer things back there while I start playing the ending chords. And Cotter did a really great job of that.
You bring up an interesting point there, and we've talked about this already, but there is a lot of trust right now between Rick and Cotter. I think Rick is willing to do just about anything that Cotter comes up with at this point. Case in point was them covering Led Zeppelin the other night. I don't think that happens for most people. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a trust, there's a bond there where Rick is willing to do things that he would never in a million years do, because Cotter's just like, listen, we got to do this. It's going to be sick. So there's trust there. I think that also happens improvisationally. And this is a good example of that. I hear it all over the place where they do let him drive the tempo so much. Like, let's put it this way. If he was really annoying about that and just did that every single time, it would make Goose less good. Yet somehow he chooses all the right spots. They trust him to choose the right spots. And that's exactly the kind of drummer that they need right now.
Mm-hmm. He's good at what he does. What a crazy concept. And then the fastest SOS of all time for the encore, 10 minutes before curfew. I was shocked that they didn't just do Dawn. They've been in this situation before. Fiddler's Night won last year, Eugene last fall, and they will usually just rip a Dawn when they have, 7 to 10 minutes. And then that will be the end of the show. But yeah, they played like the fastest outro on this SOS. I was happy because I had SOS on my picks. If they had just played Dawn, I wouldn't have gotten the points. Was happy about that. But otherwise, it's a good way to end the show as it finally gets dark.
Yeah, zooming out, like, I do like this show a lot. I think
it's a great show.
I feel like if you just like distill all of my words and like ask like ChatGPT to tell you what I thought of the show, it might tell you that like I thought it stunk, and I don't think that's the case. I really like the flow of the second set. I think it was really cool. I see, like, I don't know if I agree that the sandwich didn't work. I think it does work here, but only if you play a 39-minute Rosewood at the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the Electric Avenue that came after, that is exactly what it needed to be.
The landing pad with improvisation.
Yeah, a familiar song. Like, and I know that they do this where they jam for just about forever and they're like, we gotta play something that people know.
Yeah.
And Electric Avenue is perfect for that. And then they jam the Electric Avenue because that vibe was still rolling. And that jam is really quite nice. And then you get another 9 or so minutes of Madhavan coming out of that. It's a great set. This is a very good set. I think this is going to be a slow burn kind of show. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. They were out there having fun last night.
I think
continue to go out there and have fun.
This is front to back a great show. I think even though the first set doesn't have a big jam in it, it's the kind of jamless first set where like there's flow and there's energy and there's great playing throughout. It doesn't feel like they played a bunch of songs just because they needed to play a bunch of songs. Which is
although actually counterpoint.
Yep.
Yeti Pumped Up Kicks. Yeti actually did feel like they played a song just to play a song.
Sure, and that's the low point of the show, I think, for me. And I do want to call to attention what they had on the written set list for set 2 last night, because I think that would have been really interesting I'm glad they didn't do this. I'm glad that we got a 39-minute jam, but this would be really cool. So they had planned on Madhavan, SOS, Dawn, Fast, Slow, Dawn. I would like to say that Dawn being on the set list is just an indicator of when they are going to go into Fast, Slow, and not that Dawn is a separate song when SOS is played, because they also tracked it on the boards just as SOS, as per usual. So just disclaimer there for those who want to be annoying about it. And then Spin Me Round to close the set, and Empress Encore. So I think having the Fast, Slow, and the Spin Me Round, on the set list for the second night in a row, they want to do this club vibe at some point. I think it's going to happen in Vegas at this point. I think it's the smallest venue of the tour. It's only like 2,000-3,000. And if you've been to the Brooklyn Bowl in Vegas, you know that it feels like it's way smaller than that. So it's going to be packed in. It's Vegas. So I think we are getting Fast, Slow for sure tomorrow, and Spin Me Round definitely could come in as well. But I'm excited to see what they do with Fast, Slow, because they've been intending on sandwiching it both of the last two shows. It was supposed to come in Tumble on Saturday and in SOS last night. So,
there's a world in which I hope they save it for Fiddlers, just to kind of bring the house down there. But I mean, we'll see. They've got something up their sleeve. Fiddlers is going to stand out as a show. You would think that this would be one of the things they use for that. But yes, so get ready. We are going to be lining the set list up for the next two shows. Yes. So it's going to be wild.
We're in Flagstaff mode, but hopefully with better shows. I think I'm curious to see, there are some songs that they could play tomorrow night and then again Fiddler's Night 2, or they could just hold off on them. So stuff that they want to theoretically play at Fiddler's, like Iguana Song, Dustin Hoffman, Big Modern, songs that didn't exist the last time they played in Colorado, that they are definitely going to want to play again. There's a lot on the table. So I'm really, really curious to see how the next two shows go. This guy will be there.
That guy will be there. So let's talk about Vibes for a moment, because we
talk about Vibes for a moment.
I can't hear.
Talk about Vibes.
Yeah, unplug so I can hear the vibe.
He can't hear me, but just tell him to nod, and then he's going to agree with what I'm saying. So Vibes, hi, Haps and Kev, next two shows.
Yep.
Through the roof Vibes. Go up and say hi to Haps and Kev. If you see them at these shows, both fantastic people.
Hashtag out of state Kev. It's happening.
Out of state Kev.
I know Kev.
It's happening.
His last out of state shows that were not Goose Miss was Pine Creek in 2021. Pine Creek.
Yeah, I saw him there.
Big deal.
So did Haps. Haps was there too.
Yeah.
However, I do want to say this one other piece, which is Haps and Kev bringing up the vibe. No Ryan Storm to fuck up the vibe.
Oh, shut up.
If you're going to these two shows, they're going to be the best shows ever. Folks, get excited for that. Vibes all-time high for these two. It's not going to be like Flagstaff, whenever that was. It's going to be great.
Knock on wood.
Final Kev.
This chair is wood. All right. Well, there we go. All right. We will see everybody on Wednesday afternoon. Haps and Kev might be potting from the pool in Vegas. Yes, you want to do a quick shout out?
First off, quick shout out to all my Vibes people. We love you. Back row dancers, spinners, we love you. Rail riders, we love you too, but back row spinners, love you. Second, Neil and Ryan, shout out to both you guys for doing this all the time. We love you. Keep up the good work. Neil's I miss you, buddy. See you soon.
Right on. And lastly, before we sign off, I want to say that today was not the first time we've had a half nude man on our show. This is actually the second time that has happened.
Yes, Rick was
first time was Rick.
Was 9:15:23. I'm sorry, the 9:14:23 pod. For those who don't know,
if you want to go back and check it out on the YouTube, it's on there.
It's there. It's there. All right. We love you all. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the show in Vegas tomorrow night. We will be back Wednesday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, to talk about Vegas and before Phoenix. Thanks again. We love you all.